Winter has the country firmly in its grip. It's minus 15 degrees Celsius at night and minus 5 degrees Celsius during the day. I have to start a new project. I'm building a new heating system for the animal house you see behind me. Currently, the animal house is heated electrically with a fan heater. The energy for the fan heater comes from my off-grid PV system. This is an off-grid system that I built on the birdhouse. You'll find a link up in the corner. There, I show you how I did it. The photovoltaic system consists of 4 modules, each with 130 watts. It's supposed to supply the house. In summer, that's no problem. In winter, especially with these cold temperatures, it becomes more critical. The off-grid photovoltaic system runs on 24 volts direct current. The direct current is charged into the batteries by this charge controller. I have a total of 3 batteries, each with 120 ampere hours. Take a look. The sun is at an almost perfect angle to the modules. Currently, 5.8 amps of charging current are flowing into the batteries. The off-grid system is designed so that when the batteries are empty, meaning the capacity drops below the minimum fill level, it automatically switches to mains power. The house continues to be supplied with electricity even when the batteries are empty. Currently, my batteries are at 100% charge and have just under 13.5 to 13.4 volts. If, from spring to autumn, only the bird lamps and the night vision lamps are operated in the birdhouse, the entire setup in the house is self-sufficient. I don't have to buy any additional electricity from the grid. But when the fan heater runs in winter and heats up the animal house, the battery drains very quickly. After about 2 hours, the batteries are so depleted that the system switches back to mains power. In recent days, there has often been snow as well. Then the PV modules were covered with snow for most of the day before the sun cleared them off. Then, simply not enough electricity reaches here to supply the birdhouse with energy. The birdhouse is set up for practical use. As you can see, the little birds are having fun and the rodents are hopping around on the ground. The temperature is currently just under 5.2 degrees Celsius on this level. Upstairs, it's just under 10 degrees Celsius. The fan heater has a power of 800 watts or 1600 watts and is controlled by its own thermostat. Additionally, I have installed a manual temperature control at the power outlet. The mechanical control also works again after a power outage. With this temperature control, I have set a temperature of about 10 degrees Celsius in the upper area. Set. Surprisingly, the cold temperatures don't really bother the birds that much. If I were to open the hatch, they would all fly out and chirp around outside in the open air. Currently, 90% of the heating runs exclusively on expensive grid electricity. The off-grid system is not capable of producing enough electricity to supply the fan heater on a permanent basis. For that, I would have had to size the PV system significantly larger. But I didn't have enough space for that. So I still have high heating costs due to the electric power. That's what I want to change now with my new project. I am going to install a diesel parking heater to heat the animal house. This will be a so-called China heater. I will build a heating box on the outside of the house in which I will install the diesel heater. Install it. I will build a recirculation system. The new heater should only run on the electricity generated here from the photovoltaic roof. Before I start building, before I get going, of course I'll first unpack the Vevor diesel heater and take a closer look at it. The Vevor parking heater came in a box that wasn't much bigger than the heater itself. The accessories that come with the China heater are completely sufficient for an initial installation purposes. There is a ventilation hose included with the diesel heater. This is for the warm air that can be directed through the pipe. There is an air distributor that can be connected directly to the pipe. I can rotate the opening. But that's truly all you can really do. An exhaust system, or rather a complete muffler assembly, is also thoughtfully included. There is indeed a dedicated filter for the air intake system. This particular component is the air intake hose, which is specifically designed to deliver the necessary combustion air directly into the device itself. The exhaust hose is made of metal. It is relatively rigid and sturdy. Of course, there are also pipe clamps to connect the pipes to each other and to secure the construction permanently. There is a small cable set to supply power to the diesel parking heater. Although the Chinese heater runs on diesel, it still requires a continuous 12-volt power supply. A higher output is required especially for starting, because that's when the glow plug preheats and the diesel is heated up. At that point, it can easily require 12 to 14 amps. This works without any problems with a regular car battery. I've already tested that. The necessary energy is even supplied by my off-grid photovoltaic system. There is also a small, yet very convenient, remote control with effective touch protection. With it, I can turn the parking heater on and off and adjust the temperature. The device itself is quite compact from the outside. The 5-liter diesel tank is integrated into the unit. There's a carrying handle that makes it relatively easy to transport the device around. The weight is fine. I've carefully filled the tank to about exactly 1/3 of its capacity with diesel fuel, and I can still carry the parking heater easily. At the front, there's the air outlet, where the warm air is blown out. Here, I can directly connect the distribution pipe and channel the warm air further. The remote control in this version has 6 power levels. Level 6 is the maximum power, and level 1 is the lowest power. During my research, I already noticed that, depending on the purchase date and the version, a different display is always installed. Here, I have the version with 3 switches. There are lower, on-off, and higher. What's special about this remote control is the reversed assignment of the switches. If I want to decrease the power and press the left switch, the power increases. If I press the right switch to increase the power is reduced. In my opinion, that's the wrong way around. I'll make a separate video about this later. Then I'll introduce the remote control for the diesel parking heater to you in more detail. Again. Besides the basic settings, you can do a lot more. However, the functions are pretty well hidden, and some are even locked. I already had to do a bit of research to get the hang of it. I'm going to unscrew the Vevor parking heater and open the housing. Let's see what it looks like inside. The inside of the parking heater is relatively unspectacular. The tank is simply placed into the housing bracket. This black box is the actual parking heater. The parking heater can also be bought separately. Then you only get the black box. Air is drawn in at the back, heated in the middle, and the warm air comes out at the front. The air is expelled again. The individual heater costs a bit less than my complete model. However, for installation, you then have to buy a suitable bracket or frame separately, purchased. With this model, everything is included and it's ready to use right away. I think it's really great that you can take this mini heating box anywhere. The inner frame is a bit wobbly when the red housing is removed. The screws are only screwed through the metal. You can see that well here on the back side. These are regular sheet metal screws. There's nothing more I can tighten. Otherwise, that's sufficient too. Where is it supposed to go anyway? The display, the remote control, is located on the front side. Here's the tank. I can pull it out a little bit. Behind it is the diesel line connection and the pump. Here is the connection cable for the display. The cable is connected with a plug connector. My goal is to install the auxiliary heater's remote control inside the house. Then I can control the temperature from inside. The remote control has an integrated thermometer and I can set my desired temperature. The auxiliary heater should then regulate itself automatically. The hose on the pump and the connectors are made of solid rubber. The hose for the diesel is relatively rigid. This is not that soft plastic tubing you get for aquariums. On the back is the connection for the power supply. It says here, 12 volts and 40 watts is what's needed to operate the Vevor diesel heater. 8 kilowatts is specified as the heating output. I'm actually quite skeptical about that. This model is almost identical in construction to the 5 kilowatt version. Only the electronics and the software are supposed to be a bit more optimized. Even if only 5 kilowatts or 4 kilowatts of effective heating output is achieved, it would still be a big improvement for me. The electricity that has powered the fan heater so far is significantly more expensive than the diesel or the heating oil that I can use. Behind the heater are the connections for the fuel hose. The hose is inserted into the device from underneath. Here you can see the lower connections. The fuel connection is in the middle and there are 2 air inlets or outlets. At the front, where the heated air is blown out, is the connection for the exhaust. This is where the exhaust gases are expelled. Diesel is pumped in through the middle. At the rear opening, combustion air for the diesel is drawn in. The Vevor parking heater burns the fuel completely shielded and independently. The heater can be operated indoors. As long as the exhaust hose connection is tight and long enough, no toxic combustion gases will be distributed in the living area. Nevertheless, it makes sense to use a carbon monoxide detector or a carbon dioxide detector. This way, you can check whether any exhaust gases are actually entering the interior and whether the air is clean. I will install the Chinese heater on the outside of the house. I don't want the animals to be exposed to the noise made by the pump and the fan. Besides, birds are much more sensitive to air quality. For this reason, I will install the new heating box outside the birdhouse. Then I will run the warm air duct into the house and connect a second hose for circulation from the animal house back into the heating box. But before I start building my heating box, I want to test the Vevor parking heater. Test it. To do this, I will run the device here in my garden kitchen. I will connect the exhaust and the fresh air pipe and check the performance of the diesel heater to see how it works. For installing the exhaust and fresh air pipe, I have placed the device on its side. Connecting the two pipes is relatively simple. The openings are large enough. Even with the pre-mounted pipe clamp, I can easily attach the pipe to the opening. One thing that, in my opinion, isn't solved quite as well is the access to the pipe clamp. To tighten the screw, when I put the hose on and want to tighten the pipe clamp with a wrench, I don't have much space here. I can screw a little from above. It's a bit tight, but it works. For the fresh air hose, that's not all that important. But for the exhaust hose, it's all the more important. This one must be connected absolutely tightly to transport the harmful exhaust gases away. To be on the safe side, I'll also use some exhaust assembly paste. This is smeared inside the hose and around the device opening. The paste is relatively soft, and as soon as the exhaust hose gets hot enough, the compound hardens and seals the connection securely. For the power supply, I will use a transformer that provides the required output. For now, I'll connect it provisionally to a power cable. Later, I'll make the connections on my heating box more professionally. By the way, I'll link the diesel heater and all the accessories for you below the video. There you'll find more links to the Vevor parking heater and some tips and information. If you like, take a look at the description. There you can buy everything directly and support my channel at the same time. And while you're at it, give me a thumbs up if you like my video. Don't forget to leave me a comment. I'll continue with my test now. I've connected my makeshift power supply with a 12-volt voltage to the back of the heater. The diesel is filled in the tank and the display is active. I can start my test. I've placed a thermometer in front of the air outlet to measure how warm the air gets that flows out of this device. Place the thermometer in front of the air outlet to measure how warm the air gets flows out. I've placed a thermometer in front of the air outlet to measure how warm the air gets that flows out of this device. Currently, we have 11.2 degrees Celsius and the display on the parking heater shows 11 degrees Celsius. I've turned the exhaust pipe to the side. Later, it definitely needs to be angled downward so that the condensate can drain off. Fresh air is drawn in at the back of the heater. I activate the system by pressing the on-off switch. You hear a small click and then the heater starts up right away. After just under 3 minutes, the diesel heater is running at normal power. The exhaust and the air noises are clearly audible. That might get a bit better later with the muffler. Since I'm installing the heater outside the house in a heating box, it doesn't really bother me. I had to modify my setup for measuring the temperature. The airflow was so strong that it simply knocked over my thermometer. You can now clearly see a precise temperature reading of 57.2 degrees Celsius, which is steadily coming out of this particular Chinese-made heater. The outside temperature is still at 11 degrees Celsius. The heater is running at power level 3. I'm now increasing the level to the absolute maximum, to the highest setting of 6. Shortly after this adjustment, you can clearly hear and perceive how the exhaust noises become significantly and noticeably louder, creating a more pronounced auditory experience. The clicking of the pump that delivers the diesel into the heater also became faster and faster. After a good 15 minutes, I stopped my experiment because my thermometer was no longer able to display the temperature. The air was too hot from 80 degrees Celsius onwards and interfered with the display. I turned the heater off again and I have to say I'm really impressed. This thing really packs a punch. It puts out some really nice warm air. The consumption is unclear. At least visually, I can't see any difference in the diesel level. What do you think? Is a device like this worth it for just under 150 euros? Standalone, with the frame, the mount, and all the accessories? I think the diesel parking heater is a great thing. The first test of the 8 kilowatt diesel parking heater from Vevor is complete. I have to admit, I'm impressed. The device is solidly built and the heat output is absolutely sufficient. They definitely saved on materials here and there, but I have to say, at this price, that's to be expected. The device does exactly what it's supposed to. Now it's your turn. Give me some feedback. What do you think about this parking heater? What do you think about my project? What do you think about the idea of heating the birdhouse, the animal house in the future with a diesel parking heater, a Chinese heater? The goal of the project is to reduce electricity consumption. I don't even have to rely on diesel. I can also run the parking heater on regular heating oil. That's even significantly cheaper. But my Vevor diesel heater won't be installed the way it's standing here. For the installation, this box and these components will be used. If you want to know how I install the Chinese heater into the heating box, subscribe to my channel. Look at the bottom right corner and just click the subscribe button. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. Check out the video description. There I link the products and components I use for you. If you shop through my links, you support my channel. I would really appreciate that as well. I hope to see you in the next video when I show you how I install this device into the box and later mount the heating box onto the birdhouse. Until then, for now, take care and be well. Bye.